What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Tim Warren Show. It is another Monday. Glad to have all you guys here, but it is a big discussion we have to have on today's show. We'll go in about an hour. I got the full team here to discuss what's going on with Bitcoin, what's going on with cryptocurrency. We have crashed once again, not below the lows of last week, but it is putting us back into an uncomfortable spot. There's a reason why we are dipping, and that is causing a lot of people on the internet right now to start panicking. Should we be joining them? Is this the next beginning of the end? I feel like we've had a lot of them already this year, but is this the beginning of the end? Are we about to go a whole lot lower, or is there a chance this was a misdirection move and we're about to head back up to the upside? If you want to know about what's going on and what our opinions are, stick around for the entire show. As always, make sure to smash the like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I was checking the other day. It's still at that number. I don't know how this is doable, but we still have like 40% of you who watch every single day are not subscribed to the channel. Hit subscribe. It's free. It's easy. Just smash the like button even right now. If you don't like it right now and you want to wait to the end, that's fine, but hit subscribe. You're watching every single day. You might as well be a part of the community. I'm joined, like I said, by the rest of my team. I got Smay. I got Shrum with a different location. He's back down in the great state of Florida. All three of us right now from different cities are coming at you from Florida. Boys, how are we feeling? I'll start with you, Smay.
Tim, I'm feeling great. But I am a little confused. You said 3 different cities. I did think that me and Shrum were in the same city. Was I incorrect?
You're actually not. I'll tell you why you're not in a second. But yeah, you're
I'm
doing
great
good
though. Yes, I'm
Good.
doing great.
You're coming to us from what city?
Well, I don't want to dox myself.
Okay, that's good. It starts with a G though, doesn't it?
It may or may not start with a G.
That's true. All right, Shrum, how you liking the Florida weather? I see you're in a hoodie. How you feeling?
Yeah. No, Florida is great, Tim. It's where I want to be. It's where my feet feel the most planted on the ground, and it's where I feel the most better, the more
The most
than I
better.
deserve, the most
Yes.
better than I deserve. So
Good.
no, it is good to be back in the Sunshine State. Virginia, very cool state, a lot
Yeah.
to offer.
The best.
Do not speed in the state of Virginia.
No,
That's all I'll
don't do
say.
that.
But
Don't go over
have
80
fun.
miles an hour in the state of Virginia next to a state
Yeah.
trooper. What? Don't dox yourself. What city? What letter? What's the first letter of the city you're currently in, Shrum?
L
Yeah.
as in lingo.
Different city there, Smay. Different city there.
What?
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out later because we don't want to
Hell.
dox you guys on the internet. See, Tim knows a thing or two. I knew you weren't in the same city. You're not very far from each other, but you're not in the same city. That being said, this is all worthless, but we like to have fun when we all get together. If you guys enjoy our community, if you guys enjoy the dynamic of our team, let me know in the comments. With that said, though, let's get into the details. Let's get into what's going on in the crypto world. Go ahead and share my screen here, Smay. If you guys have been sleeping under a rock and you're just waking up to watch the Tim Warren Show on Monday at 3 p.m., welcome. Good morning. Glad to have you here. You missed some excitement. Bitcoin once again had a big dip. We got up to 93,000 over the holiday weekend. I say that we actually did it on Friday during Black Friday. Got up above $93,000 on Bitcoin. But this morning we have fallen all the way back down below 90, got down to 83,866, give or take, depending on the exchange that you utilize. What is going on here? Take a look at some other cryptos. It wasn't just Bitcoin, Ethereum doing it as well. For the most part, most of these coins are keeping in higher lows than the previous dip, but there are coins like Solana, for example, really starting to stretch the envelope here and potentially give ourselves a lower low. There are coins like Uni. Uni did go lower than the lows from last week. It also didn't really have much of a rally in the first place. In a nutshell, crypto is down, but what's funny is when you look at a couple other things. This is the gold chart. Let me flash just so you guys can see this really, really well. Let me get a little bigger here. These are daily candles I'm showing you. Look at that blue bearish candle on Bitcoin, and then you take a look at gold. Gold actually is in the positive. Well, you're thinking, well, Tim, what about the stock market? Is the stock market having a really bad day? No, it's not. It opened up a little lower. Technically, it's down 0.46% from where it closed back here on Friday the 28th, but you can still see since the daily candle opened, it actually is slightly bullish, having a nice little rally even this morning. So what the heck is going on with Bitcoin and with cryptocurrency? We're going to cover that with Shrum under the news portions. There is one big thing that is happening right now that is causing a lot of concern, a lot of fear, a lot of panic in the markets. And I'll go and stretch it this way. I have a poll in chat. I see the leading answer is, I need an explanation. I knew some of you would be in that boat. We're going to set the stage here. We're actually going to jump into the news a little early and then come back to the charts in a second so we can really play out what's going on. But I asked you guys in chat early on, I said, are we about to repeat the price action of August of 2024 or August of 2019? 34% of you right now are saying August of 2024. 20% of you are saying August of 2019. 47% though of you so far have no idea what I'm talking about. And we're about to get into that, but I want to set the stage before I bring Shrum on and we talk about the news headline, what's going on with Bitcoin price action. What we see playing out right now has similarities. It's not identical, it's not the exact same, but there are similarities between what's happening right now and what happened last year in August and what happened back in 2019 in August as well. For more on that, I want to throw it over to Shrum. Let's start with the big thing happening right now. That's SME. I love seeing SME.
This is
Smash a like for SME.
Jump scare.
There we go.
Jump scare.
Unless you have some sort of update on the issue. There we go. We got Shrum on here. We had to reset everything. Obviously, Shrum wasn't on the last couple of shows. It was me and SME. Shrum, let's start off. Before we break down the similarities between right now and 2019 and 2024, obviously, let's talk about what is the big issue happening today that did cause Bitcoin to go from being above 90,000 last night to today, we dropped as low as 83,600. Take it away. What's going on in the news?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big thing is obviously the Japanese carry trade. We hate to hear it, but we do have our head around it. We know what to expect. So if you go over to my screen here, you can see, even on the weekly chart, you can see that the Japanese 10-year yield has just absolutely moved in the wrong direction, moving up. And this is a really extended rate as well that we're seeing this move. And it really comes down to this, Tim, is there's something called the carry trade, the yen carry trade, and the unwind fears are now back. When the value of the yen rises versus USD, yen longs get repaid, which thins U.S. liquidity market. You can go off my screen. For those of you who've been in crypto for the last 2 years, you know probably a little bit about what the yen carry trade is. But if you don't, I'll explain it quite quickly. So there's the Bank of Japan, the central bank of Japan, and for a long time, they have the lowest interest rate. They have the lowest cost to borrow money. Now, you sitting at home can't borrow money from the central bank of Japan, but large funds, hedge funds, all over the world, they absolutely can go borrow money from the Bank of Japan at a very low rate. Then they turn around and they'll go invest that money into treasuries. Right. And so if you're investing into a US Treasury that's getting 4 or more percent, right, then that 4% is gravy. And you can take that money and you can go invest that in other places, whether it's going to be pharmaceuticals, biotech, whether it's going to be crypto, or whether it's just going to go into something conservative like Microsoft. The problem now with the yen carry trade is that is a free money loop, functionally a free money loop that is closing, right? How do we know it's closing? We know it's closing because of this spread here. If you go back to my screen, the Bank of Japan decision in December, the most likely outcome now, according to Polymarket, is actually a 25 basis point increase. Now, don't get it twisted. The Bank of Japan is not the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve spread is still saying that there'll be a cut in December, but the Bank of Japan is actually getting projected to hike rates. And when the rates get hiked in Japan, it decreases the amount of free money that is available to large, sophisticated financial service providers and hedge funds. So, Tim, kind of coming back into the ground, the reason why Bitcoin is selling off on this news is because we have some historical precedent. And whenever this happens, it sends jitters through the market because there is real unwind that has to take place at these banks and these hedge funds. And when they do that unwind, it just thins out liquidity in the market. And there's less money that's going and willing to take risk in things like Bitcoin or Coinbase stock or Palantir or whatever it's going to be. And so that is why risk assets are suffering today. And Bitcoin seems to be getting hit pretty hard.
There we go. And some of you might be saying, okay, Tim, that's explaining why we're going down right now. Why are we bringing this up, though? Why are we talking about these past times? Some of you will remember and feel like, man, this feels like deja vu. I've heard of this yen carry trade for a while now. There's been threats of it for a very, very, very long time. But there was a time period last year, about a year and some change ago, that this was a focal point story that did have a big impact on the price action of Bitcoin. In fact, go to my screen here, Smay. Some of you will remember when we were pulling back last summer during 2024, there was a nasty, nasty fall in price action back here in August. On August 5th, we crashed. Bitcoin would go in just a couple of days from 69,800 all the way down below 50K to 49,000 in a couple of days. What was happening during this period? It was a Japanese yen carry trade scare. Ben Cowan, we're going to spend a little time on this. I'm going to tell you about 2019 in a second. So if you're saying, Tim, what about 2019? Let's talk about 2024 for a second. Ben Cowan, one of my favorite influencers myself to follow, right? I'm an influencer myself, but I like to follow some of the other guys as well. Love me some Ben Cowan. I'm going to point out some stuff here that is really crucial and really important. Also going to point out, love you, Ben. You made a tiny mistake in this post, but let's read it. Ben Cowan tweeted out earlier, said in July of 2024, the Fed cut rates while the BOJ raised rates, leading to the unwind of the carry trade. Of course, talking about Japan. Bitcoin capitulated into it and found a low 1 week later. Good chance this happens again in December 10th. Fed cuts, the BOJ raises rates, so maybe Bitcoin finds a low mid-December. All right. Now, what's very important to understand here is Ben is somebody. Go ahead right now. If you know what he got wrong in this tweet, go ahead and post it in chat right now. I'll tell you what it is, though, for the rest of you who are lost. What he's talking about is if you go back to July 31st, if I zoom in here, this was a time period. There was an FOMC day as well as a BOJ day. So FOMC, the Federal Reserve, had their meeting to decide if they wanted to cut rates or not. The Japanese, I don't know what they call themselves, Japanese Fed, the Bank of Japan, they had their own meeting. They raised interest rates. And of course, this caused a big scare. And it took a couple of days up until August 5th. We finally had a nasty wick to downside and then bounced back up. Now, Ben Cowan got something wrong here. If you go back and read his tweet, again, I don't think I saw anyone in chat point out what was going on here. And again, Ben, I assume you watch all of our content because you have a lot of time on your hands. Love you. You got this one wrong. In July of 2024, the Fed did not cut rates. When I first saw the tweet, and again, I love me some Ben Cowan, I was like, that doesn't sound right. I don't remember a cut before September, and it turns out my memory was correct. The Federal Reserve did not cut rates until September. So in this case, Ben is a little off here. His tweet's almost suggesting we're sitting in a very similar situation in 2024 when it comes to, well, we're about to get a Fed rate cut on December 10th. There's more than a 90% probability currently okay, it's fell a little bit to 88%, but you get my point here. It's close to 88%, close to 90% here that we're getting a rate cut on December 10th. Then Japan will probably cut their own rates once again. So what he's saying is, man, do we see a repeat of history of 2024 where it takes a couple of days, but ultimately Bitcoin will bottom out and then resume its upward momentum? I don't know if he's actually saying he thinks the bull market's back on, just upward momentum. You guys know I've been saying there's a relief rally that needs to come. I'll talk more about that here in a second. I'm not quite certain that that's over yet or not. But where he has this a little wrong is in August of 2024, or rather July 31st, the Fed did not cut rates. So America stayed still while Japan raised rates. Yes, it makes a lot of sense why the markets will drop. But technically speaking, what we're about to walk into in December is a situation where Japan will probably raise rates and America will cut rates. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Here's what you should know about it. Even under that situation, while the Japanese scare is a big reason why prices are falling today, it was very close to a major bottom before a rally would resume. So here's the question. Are we going to see a repeat of history where the Japanese carry trade spooks people into thinking you're heading into a major bear market? If you weren't here in August 2024, let me tell you right now, people in chat verify it. There was so much commotion on X, right, in this period of time. These candles right here, so many people thought that Bitcoin was about to crash to like 10,000. The amount of bears coming out saying 10,000 by end of year was ridiculous. Why? Because of the FUD. of the Japanese carry trade fear. Will we see that repeat once again, where maybe the bottom isn't quite in yet? Maybe we actually do wick all the way down to 74,000 and get that kind of ugly monkey off our back here today. Will we see that repeat, or will we see something else play out? Go off my screen. There's another situation that is happening right now, and I've talked about it on the show several times. Ben Cowan actually mentioned this one as well. So again, I want to give him his flowers along with saying, hey, Ben, we got one detail wrong. Tonight, I don't know what time, maybe Shrum does, we officially will be entering or exiting quantitative tightening here in the United States. Quantitative tightening is all a process that, in a nutshell, I'm not going to get into the exact details, it removes liquidity from the markets. We're going to be ending that. Not quite entering into quantitative easing, where we're injecting a lot of money in, but it is removing the restrictions to liquidity that's happened in the United States. Now, historically, these are bullish events long-term for assets, but they're not necessarily immediately bullish. And in fact, there's a time period in our history, as again, we're talking about a rate cut's coming in December on the 10th. We're about to exit quantitative tightening. So you're thinking, okay, QT's ending, rate cuts are coming. We have to shoot to the upside, correct? Not necessarily. Ben Cowan actually pointed this out in another one of his tweets. I'm not going to bring that up, but I want to tell you the time period the last time we saw something like this happen. Go back to my screen here. Now we bring in the summer of 2019. Now let me make sure I'm clear here. During the summer of 2019, Bitcoin, I'm on the wrong chart. It doesn't matter. Bitcoin had been in a bear market all of, I'm good. I'm good over here. Bitcoin had been in a bear market all of 2018. In 2019, we finally find a bottom. We begin to rally here. Bitcoin would shoot from $3,100 all the way up to $13,000 or $14,000 almost. Not a new all-time high, but a pretty good, impressive little bull run. But Bitcoin was a little overextended. It was a little overheated. The markets were in a period of time where all of a sudden Donald Trump, who was the president at the time, another similarity right now, started talking and giving some concerns that we were going to have major tariff issues with China. Does that sound familiar to anybody? And can anyone relate to the kind of concerns and stuff that happens during that time? Anyway, in a nutshell, back in August of 2019, I'm saying a lot of 20s right now, we had QT end on August 1st, and we were having rate cuts throughout this entire process. We had a rate cut in July. We had a rate cut. We skipped August. We had another rate cut in September. But notice Bitcoin would not actually find a bottom. We really wouldn't find a bottom until COVID, but let's pretend COVID didn't exist. Bitcoin wouldn't bottom out until December of 2019. So what this means is we had a multiple months long process of QT and cutting rates that Bitcoin was not finding new highs. It was actually still trending to the downside. Ben Cowan put this out there. There's a chance what this could mean is that we really don't actually find a bottom, and we don't really start a rally until sometime mid to late Q1. I think it's an interesting theory that Ben Cowan kind of puts out here. I will say, just so everyone's clear here, if we did repeat 2019, again, remember the quantitative tightening ended on August 1st. August 1st, the price of Bitcoin was here at 10,000. For the next week and some change, we would shoot even higher up above $12,000, having a nice little rally. That doesn't mean that the top was you're about to get shattered. It doesn't mean the bottom was in. There was a long drawn out process. Even with QT ending and even with rate cuts happening, this fall of 2019 period proves that if you're banking and saying we have to rally because we're entering or exiting QT and getting a rate cut right now, that's not necessarily the case. Go off my screen here, Smay. I just threw a lot at you. There's some similarities between right now and two other main timepieces. Do we think, in chat, now that you have that information, you guys can go ahead and vote in chat. If you hadn't voted on that poll yet, we have 741 people here on YouTube watching, only 311 votes. Go vote on that poll. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Do you think we repeat either one of these series? Before I give my answer, I want to throw it over to Shrum. Shrum, give me your thoughts here. Maybe you have a point of clarification or a question. Maybe I didn't explain something correctly. What are your thoughts when you look at these similarities? Do you think there's anything to them that we should be worried about? One of them suggests that we're close to a bottom, but it's not quite in yet. The other suggests we might have a short-term rally, but then have a longer-term pullback. Does this concern you? What are your thoughts about these two similar situations?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that we're looking for a local bottom. I think that that's kind of what Bitcoin's hunting for, and we're going to see if that bottom was already put in November, or if we need to explore lower in December. What I'll say is that they're throwing everything they can. And by they, I mean the universe, right? Because the Japanese central bank, I don't think, is coordinating to try to FUD Bitcoin. But everything is being thrown at Bitcoin's price at this point in time. And to be honest with you, we're staying well anchored above 83, 85,000 per Bitcoin, not even really coming down and tickling 80,000 at this point in time. So investors are looking at Bitcoin. They're seeing a resilient asset that has had some headwinds, and it's held up pretty well for its volatility. Historically, it's done very well at this point in time. You have to ask the question, Tim. 16 years ago, Bitcoin was less than $1, right? And now it's come all the way. It's come all this way: $1,000 per coin, $10,000 per coin, 50,000, and now we've gone up to $125,000 per coin. If you look at that trajectory and you zoom out, what is the case for Bitcoin stopping at 100,000 and never going back and never going higher? There isn't a case, right? Bitcoin is following a power law. And so I think that what we're seeing now is a lot of uncertainty, because there are so many smart Bitcoin analysts who are holding on to this concept of the 4-year cycle. It has been the lifeboat for so many people historically who have held Bitcoin and who have held crypto, right? They cling to this thing that seems to be real. And in the past, it has definitely seemed to be very, very real. But then there's this whole other group of analysts who are on the other side and saying, no, I think the 4-year cycle doesn't make any sense. Maybe it never made any sense, but it still worked out that if you played as if it made sense, that you would come out ahead. I think there's a very large amount of uncertainty as to who's right. Right. And I have my biases, but ultimately the market is trying to sift through that. It's kind of like, the period, after 2008, it's the housing crisis. It's like there's a lot of people saying, this isn't the end. The S&P is going to go even lower. But then other people are saying, no, the mortgage-backed security crisis has been resolved. The rating agencies have adjusted their ratings and we're ready to go higher. Nobody knew who was right. But if you were buying ExxonMobil, if you were buying Microsoft, if you were buying the S&P 500, you were proven to be very right, and you've been rewarded handsomely ever since. I'm not saying that Bitcoin has the same track record as the S&P 500, but what I am saying is right now, anyone's guess is as good as the next analyst. There's a bunch of talented analysts on both sides. I think we're finding a local bottom, and I think we're going to push not just higher, but I think that we haven't really even seen what the Bitcoin engine can do once you really put some jet fuel into it.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this really plays out. Here's the reality. I've said this the whole time. This market is completely different than past ones. And I'm bringing these situations to your guys' attention because I think you deserve to see them, hear them, and decide for yourself what do you think is going to happen. If I was going to tell you, though, my opinion, what I think is going to play out, which one is more likely to play out, I'm going to go with the summer of 2024. I'll explain why. It's not just because I am a bullish person, although I am a bullish person still as things go forward. There are some pretty big differences, though, between what we have going on now and what we have in both situations, but more so the situation of 2019, in my personal opinion. Just because that was a situation where we were both cutting rates and exiting QT doesn't tell the full story. You can't just take those similarities alone and say, well, if those are the same, we have to do identical price action. Remember something I clarified. What was happening during the summer and into the fall of 2019? There was a lot of concern about the economy based off of tariffs from Donald Trump in China. We're not at that stage anymore. Go back. I'll tell you what the similarity is. Go back and look at this. If you looked at the summer of 2019 and compared it to the early days of 2025, that's where you find your similarity. When there is concern about tariffs and rising inflation and making everything more expensive and hurting the economy, risk on assets like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency will not thrive. I think that the tariff issues were a much bigger similarity between the two time periods than the QT and rate cuts. Historically, there are periods of times where you have rate cuts and markets fall, but do a quick search for yourself when you have rate cuts coming And when you get out of quantitative tightening and you start to inject liquidity back into the markets, these are historically bullish time periods. I think that the Trump tariffs of 2019 did affect that time period. I don't see us repeating that same thing. I'm also not promising you the bottom is in just yet. I think there's a whole lot of chaos that this market can have itself. But I don't myself believe that 2019 is going to repeat. Why? Because we're not sitting in the same economic situation as we were at that time period. Let's fast forward to 2024. I think, 2024 is a little more similar, and I could see it playing out semi the same, but there's going to be some differences. What is that big difference? Again, are both of these time periods now and 2024 times where Japan was raising interest rates? Yes, it was. But the difference, this time America is leaving QT and beginning to cut rates. I'm not telling you that I'm expecting Bitcoin to fly up to a new all-time high by next week. Heck, I still don't necessarily think that Bitcoin will hit a new all-time high by the end of the year. That's something I still think might not happen until sometime into or late Q1 of this year. And I saw someone in chat earlier say, they're like, Tim, you first said December, now you're saying Q1. By the way, so far in the show, I've given very little of my opinions. I've been laying out thought processes for you. I still think that December ends up being a bullish month for a plethora of reasons. But I want to make sure you guys are aware of the alternative view and reasons why some people are thinking December could still be a rough month. However, you have to dissect the individual details of what is going on and realize these are different situations. So while they look the same, they sound the same, and they have some similarities, there are some pretty big differences. But this is going to take me back to something I talked about on the charts earlier. I saw someone in chat say, Tim, when you were doing the charts earlier, are you pretty much just telling us that crypto sucks? Let's go back here. Some of you are just joining, so I want to reiterate what I was talking about. Go back to my screen here, Smay. I want to show people back to back to back what certain charts are looking like right now. This is the Bitcoin chart, right? We found some pretty good volume. Let me turn the volume indicator on here. We found some pretty good volume on the low here from November 21st. We had a nice little rally going. Nothing major, no resistance was really hit here, but we started to tumble again here today on, again, the big news here, the Japan carry trade, a FUD that's been around for a long time and will continue to be around. However, take a look. I would believe this FUD a little more if the other assets similar to crypto were having problems as well. Take a look at gold. Gold has a bullish day today on all of this news. Take a look at the S&P 500. While technically it's in the slight red because it opened lower than it closed on Friday, you actually have positive momentum since the markets opened this morning. What does this tell me? Someone in chat said, Tim, does that mean crypto is dead and gone? No. It means Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are the easier ones to manipulate due to heavy leverage trading positions from retail investors, and it's been taken advantage of throughout this whole process. However, there are still some extremely positive signs. Some of you know I talked about the daily buy signal that came in here back here on November 23rd. That is still in effect. Is it in jeopardy of falling? Yeah, it could fall over here. It could end up failing. But right now, this is one of the deepest buy signals we've seen since all the way, guess what? Back here in March, right before the big correction in April, and then then the rally would begin once again. This is where I'm sitting here saying we might not see the bottom in just yet, but I do think that we are getting close to at least a relief rally or potentially resuming the bull run due to a lot of positive factors coming in here. By the way, I've also been telling you guys, I want to see the weekly buy signal to feel really confident about Bitcoin and crypto space. While we don't have the buy signal just yet, we are seeing something very close to it as we are watching the reversal indicators come in. The oscillator is flattening out. The money flow is still negative, so we still have some time here before the weekly signal gives us a buy signal. But this indicator on this weekly buy signal has been extremely important and effective at telling you the right times to buy and the right times to sell Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. What happens, though, sometimes with this indicator, and I was teaching our VIP chat earlier today about this, you look for what I call misdirection moves. I want to show you, for example, on the weekly chart. Let's go back to the last two major sell signals on the weekly chart that would have been good times to take profit and get out, possibly even look for some form of a short. In both situations, the first one right here, we had a sell signal in July of 2025. Red reversals up top. Not red reversals. Bearish divergence. That's our reversal. Gray momentum dot. and negative money flow. What would end up happening with the price of Bitcoin? Bitcoin would have a little collapse right here, followed by a misdirection move. We actually went a little higher, and then the big drop happened. Same thing when you go back and look at the previous weekly sell signal. Let's bring this back up here and go back to December of 2024. You get a sell signal, red reversal and bearish divergence, gray momentum dot, and negative money flow coming in. Guess when? In December of 24. What would happen? The price of Bitcoin would take a small little dip, redirect, and then have a big crash to the downside. Well, why? Why do we look for these misdirection moves sometimes in these markets? And why do I think another misdirection move could happen here with Bitcoin on the daily chart? The reason why psychologically is because ultimately Bitcoin flashed in December. It was overbought and needed a correction, and the markets began to fall to the downside. Well, whales didn't necessarily get all of their exit liquidity gone. They needed to have a little rally, pump it back up, make people feel bullish again in January so they could sell off at those higher levels, and then they were ready to wait for a big correction and accumulate the dip. Same thing back here. We flashed in July, overbought. We need to correct here. Small correction happens. The whales say, yeah, we didn't sell everything we wanted to sell. Let's get that misdirection move back up. We'll take profit now and wait for a correction to buy the dip once again. That is what we see happen with this indicator time and time again. And so that's why right now I am not freaking out watching this correction on Bitcoin, because I know there's a daily buy signal. I know there's targets at least up here back towards 96, 97,000 with a smart trail. I still believe after losing that 200-day SMA, after losing the 50-week SMA, that a revisit of the 200-day SMA up here right now at 109, I think realistically an order block around 103,000 is a more realistic target. I still think that we're going to get a run up to this at least. I still think that Bitcoin's going to have a moment, keyword moment, where people turn from being bearish. They're convinced the bull run is back on. And then we have decision moment. Is it legitimate? Does Bitcoin have this double bottom move? Does it move up here? Do we, as we head back towards, and I'm double click there, my apologies. As we head back up here towards the 200-day SMA and everyone's getting bullish again, does the volume come in down here, and do people confirm the buys and break through and we head to new all-time highs? Or do we repeat 2022 where the volume kind of dwindles, the momentum gets lower? Let me grab this. And all of a sudden, we reject on that 200-day SMA and start to move even lower to the downside. That's what we're still watching happen right now. Do I have a crystal ball to tell you whether we hit 100K or 74K first? No, I don't. I honestly can see both of these situations happening, either coming here first and then going up, or going up here and then coming down here. These are all things that legitimately still can happen. I cannot make a perfect prediction on how they're going to look out. All I can do is watch the charts, make moves based off of them. By the way, if you were in our trading group over the weekend, one of our pro traders, Rufio, did a phenomenal job catching the top here of Bitcoin. He saw on the 4-hour and the 1-hour chart major reasons to take corrections. One of those reasons why, our phenomenal indicator called flow signals that gave us a sell signal back in here. It actually started back on November 28th. It happened again here last night on the 30th of November. If you had been in the group, you could have taken advantage of jumping into a short using this indicator and a lot of other things we teach people. My overall point here is I have my longer term perspectives. I have my shorter term perspectives. I still believe this is a heavily manipulated market, which means anything is possible. But when you zoom out, instead of freaking out, there still is a lot of reason to suspect over the long haul. When you look at the news, when you look at the charts, we still should see a big move happening either early or late 2026. I still think early 2026, where new all-time highs come back in. If you want to sell, if you want to take profit or take loss, I know some people are going to say, Tim, I'm not in profit, and leave right now, be my guest. Crypto is not for the faint of heart. These markets are extremely volatile. They're extremely chaotic. But what I keep coming back to is historically, when you see this level of panic, concern, doubt, chaos, you're approaching at least a temporary low bottom situation. A relief bounce at the least should be coming. And at the better side, you might actually be seeing yourself enter into another bull run. Even this bull market so far, we've seen this happen several times. The summer of 2024, again, some of you are going to overblow this and say, Tim, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Yes, it was. The fear of crypto was low. The panic on X of people claiming that the bull run was over and we're entering the greatest bear market of all time was roaring in the fall of 2024 before September. And we had a big rate cut happen, and all of a sudden we shot to the upside. Same thing back in April. The sky was falling. People were saying the economy was ruined. We were heading for the biggest bear market ever. We would bottom out at 74,000 and resume a run to new all-time highs. Once again, we're sitting in a spot where, despite the fact that Bitcoin is still macro-wise sitting extremely high, the fear is hitting historic levels. People are panicking, freaking out, and they're wanting to capitulate and sell. And this all plays into the hands of the composite man, where he shakes you out at the right times. He understands, the composite man, he understands that markets are going to higher highs and higher lows, and they're just going to keep going like this. What he does is he makes you extremely bullish at all of the tops, and he makes you extremely bearish at all of the bottoms. Why? Because he needs liquidity to buy the bottoms from you as you're selling and to sell the tops from you as you're buying, or to you as you're buying. It's all a bunch of chaos and misdirection moves in the markets to manipulate price action. And again, I see all this, and I'm going to throw it back here. If you don't believe in manipulation, that's fine. I know some people say, Tim, you talk about manipulation all the time. It's because we see it on the daily basis. But if you need no other evidence to show you manipulation is happening right now, just take a look at today's candles. I'll show them once again, and then we'll throw it to Shrum. I think we have one more story, one more event we want to talk about, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. Look at Bitcoin's daily candle. Big, big, big correction. Look at gold, and look at the stock market. Look at the S&P 500. They are not selling off the way Bitcoin is. There clearly is a concentrated effort. It's not an economic problem. It's not a major long-term problem. There is a connected effort right now to manipulate and hold crypto prices down. In cycles past, that's because crypto was the enemy. Institutions in Wales were afraid of what crypto would do to their power. This time, it has nothing to do with fear. It has everything to do with control. They want to control the price action. They want to control the wealth. They see that crypto and Bitcoin are the future of generations of generating wealth. Manipulating right now while they can is the play before historic highs come. And again, will it happen early 2026, mid, late? Do we have to wait until 2027? Anything is technically possible. I'm just telling you right now my personal opinion and explaining my reasons and evidence for having that opinion. You ultimately have to make the decision for yourself. Do you want to buy these dips, or do you want to sell them thinking you might get access to 33,000 or 20,000, or heck, maybe some of you out there listening right now think Bitcoin is going to 10,000 per coin? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm just here telling you my thoughts on the matter completely. There's one more story. You can go up my screen here, Smay. One more story I want to talk about. MicroStrategy buys crypto and Bitcoin all the time, but there's a little bit more going on with MicroStrategy. The FUD is coming out again like crazy that MicroStrategy is a dead stock, that the writing is on the wall. They're going to suffer, and they're going to take Bitcoin down with them. Shrum, why don't you bring that article? I know they're buying more, and I want to get your take on what you're seeing right now with MicroStrategy.
Yeah. So I think for me, the situation is starting to change for MicroStrategy. Let's take a look here at the headline. So they bought a bunch of Bitcoin to the and then MicroStrategy announces the formation of a 1.44 billion USD reserve. So what MicroStrategy is doing at this point is they did not sell any Bitcoin, just to be clear. They did not sell any Bitcoin, but they did issue new MicroStrategy shares to fund this $1.4 billion USD reserve. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I've been talking about this with the morning news crew that you can join us in the Discord. Check out the Discord. There's links for that. And I go into more detail. This is a bit of a shift for me I've been a long-term holder of MicroStrategies, but this has definitely caused me to kind of scratch my head, because if they're willing to print MicroStrategy shares to fund a dollar purchase essentially, and for the benefit of the preferred stock class, it's not a betrayal of those who have invested in MicroStrategy, because they're still far and away the largest holder of Bitcoin publicly traded on the stock exchange. However, this is starting to become less beneficial for the common stockholders of MicroStrategy. So for that reason, my thoughts have started to shift on this. But Tim, what do you think about what Saylor's doing?
Yeah, I want to reiterate. Again, anything is technically possible. Like, I don't have it as a 0% a 0% chance that MicroStrategy is in big trouble and things are going to get way worse. I see people in chat saying Bitcoin easy 50K. I'm not going to buy until Bitcoin's back down at 35K. I want you to know, I'm not saying there's a 0% chance of that stuff happening. I don't think it's the more likely of the outcomes. I like 50K better than 35K. I think there's a world in which that happens with a 60% bear market. But my overall thought here, though, is even hearing you talk about this, Shrum, very good points about some concerns with MicroStrategy. But I still want to reiterate here, if you think this is the first or the last time that people will try to make it sound like MicroStrategy is in big trouble and they are about to get massively liquidated and be in big issues, don't know what to tell you. Like, this is not the first. This isn't the second. This isn't the third, fourth, or fifth. MicroStrategy, it feels like every other month, is being questioned. Are they even going to make it? Maybe they don't. But at this point, I'm still holding on to the benefit of the doubt that Michael Saylor, I'm not calling him the smartest investor of all times, but there's been a lot of things he has done correctly. You know, people were calling him an idiot when he was buying Bitcoin at 35K because we had been low, and now that looks brilliant. And people called him an idiot for buying all the time. He sees something that other people don't, is that to him, 100K Bitcoin is a discount because he's thinking about the next 10, 15, 20 years. He's not thinking about tomorrow necessarily. A lot of retail investors like to think about just right here, right now. So I don't want to rule out a potential bad action. I'm saying it is funny that a lot of times that this FUD comes out like crazy. We got FUD right now in Japan. We got FUD right now about MicroStrategy. We got FUD right now about the economy in general. These time periods where you don't see the details backing up the FUD, you just see the FUD out there, more often than not has been historical markings of local bottoms. And that's what's keeping me from getting into a full-blown bearish state. Am I defensive right now? Absolutely. If Bitcoin shoots up to 100K this week and I don't see massive volume coming in confirming that bullishness, I'm taking profit on a good amount of my altcoins. Why? Because I'm in a defensive mode right now. But there's a whole lot still to play out that we've never seen things happen. And unfortunately, listen, if you love the 4-year cycle and you want to stick to the 4-year cycle theory, good. Sell off, leave, come back a year from now and start buying the dip. Okay? I hope it works out for you. I myself, though, I see too much on the table, chart-wise, news-wise, and logic-wise, to think that the 4-year cycle is still intact. I think that thing is over. I think that it's being utilized as a weapon to shake out retail investors and allow institutions who have not been involved, who didn't buy Bitcoin at 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 30,000, who didn't really start buying Bitcoin until it was over 70,000, it's giving them an opportunity to accumulate more before the big run. That's my personal opinion, and I'm going to stick to it. I've been around the block too many times with MicroStrategy FUD, with Bitcoin FUD, to give up just now on it. Now, do things change? Do I make adjustments as things happen? Possibly, probably. If things get a whole lot worse, I will make adjustments. But I'll say this. I see someone in chat say, hey, I just don't feel like we're at a level of pain that we were at in 2022 or 2023. I don't think the bottom's in. Touche. I think we are, but I respect the opinion saying we're not there yet. Here's where we're not at either. We're at so much fear right now. We have not gotten back into a point of bullishness, of false hope with a relief rally. That's my main point right now. I'm not even really going too far into what happens in 27 and 28 and 29. I'm talking about what happens in the next couple of weeks to next couple of months. A relief rally is still needed. A relief rally should still come. Even during bear markets, there are moments, just like in bull markets where you have these pullbacks and people think the bear market's here, there are moments in bear markets where you get these big relief bounces and people think the bull market's back on. I don't think anybody has gotten to that point with a Bitcoin move just back up to 93K. I still believe we get to 100K or a little above, At that point, it becomes decision time. Do we sell off? Is that the dead cat bounce? Is that the misdirection move to convince retail to jump back in and then institutions just dump on them preparing for a longer bear market? Or do we actually see the misdirection move happen all the time? Retail never comes back, and it turns out the entire buying spree was nothing but institutions, and they plan on keeping it going. We got to cover that as it comes out. If you're newer to the channel, welcome. So glad you guys are here. I have been on record several times in the last couple of months. I'm open with this. I'm honest about it. I do not proclaim, pretend, or think of myself as being an expert and analyst who gets everything correctly. I think I'm pretty good. I think I get a good amount right, and I get a good amount wrong. One of the biggest things I got wrong, and one of my, let's call it regrets, I'm not sitting here and wallowing in self-pity here. One of my biggest regrets are some of my bigger price predictions for the end of 2025 and into 2026. Thinking that the markets would be similar, a little different, but similar to the past, I made some high price predictions a long time ago that have not come to fruition. I was wrong. I accept I'm wrong. And because of that, I have changed even the way I analyze the markets. I'm done trying to pretend to know what 6 to 12 months looks like. And I'll be honest with you right now, anyone who claims to know what's going to happen 6 to 12 months from now is dead wrong. Earlier this year in January, you had a bunch of bulls telling you, myself included, crypto would have a massive rally to the upside. Bitcoin would hit ridiculously high levels above 200,000. Okay? Wrong. Bulls are wrong. But let's not pretend that the bears are right. The bears also told you that we were done above 100K and we would enter a major bear market in the year 2024. That hasn't happened either. Want to know why? Because these markets are different. Nobody can predict the next 6 to 12 months. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop pretending, imagining I can. I'm going to focus right now on the here and now. I'm going to look at historical trends. I'm going to look at charts. I'm going to use as much logic as I possibly can to talk about what the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months could look like. Right now, there's a lot of volatility. There's a whole lot of chaos. Strap on in. But that's as far as you're going to get with me on this channel. You're not going to hear, I'm done trying to predict where will Bitcoin be at the end of 2026. No. I'm not even going to try to tell you where Bitcoin's going to be at the end of this month. I'm going to tell you what the charts are saying right now. I'm going to look at support and resistance. I'm going to look at historical precedences and say, man, what makes the most sense to be bullish or bearish right here, right now? And I'm telling you right now, it makes the most sense to be bullish in the short term. Give me a small rally. We'll talk about being bearish and selling off. But right now, with these dips and these situations, it makes a lot of sense to be bullish. But ultimately, you got to make that decision for yourself. Before I continue, I see some other chat. I want to look at some chat here and answer some questions. I want to give a special shout out to my team and what's going on. If you guys want to learn more, if you want to learn more about trading, if you want to get access to the indicators you guys see me using, these great buy and sell signals called flow signals, there's a great place that you can get it right now, and you can get it on sale. Go to my screen here real quick, Smay. There's a Black Friday sale happening for the rest of this week, right? We've had it last week. This Friday is the cutoff. Right now, when you use code BF50 on an annual plan, you get 50% off all of our plans. You can get, if you want to month to month for 3 months, you can use code BF33 and get 33% off. But I encourage you, if you want to learn how to trade, if you want to learn to make money, whether the markets are bullish or bearish, if you want to learn about the markets and how to read the charts, how to analyze news and think through with a great team, we have live trading sessions every single day. We have a massive community talking through the markets that are people just like you. We have a free indicator that comes with all of our signups. Right now, go act on this Black Friday sale. You'll see the link in the description down below. This week is the end of the sale. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not saying there will never be sales in the future. This is the Black Friday sales, just like almost every other company in the world, will be our biggest sale. So I encourage you, jump on it now while you can if you want to learn more about trading. We got great stuff over there. I'll talk more about it in future videos. Let's talk about chat. Let's talk with chat, answer some questions. Smash like, by the way, if you guys do enjoy the video, enjoy the content, smash the like button. All right. KG says, Tim, you feeling better? Listen, I've been feeling better for like last 3 weeks. You guys can hear it. I still have a nasal congestion. I have a cough. I think I'm going on week 5. Man, I just can't shake the cough. I have found out from friends in my area, there's something going around this area down here. I'm not the only person experiencing these symptoms of like 5 weeks of coughing and congestion. But I'm working out. I'm moving stuff into my new house. I'm being active. Nothing's holding me back. I'm still doing charts and everything, but can't shake this. Can't shake this. Veteran says week 100, Tim. Maybe all year. Other questions. Crux in chat. Shrum, if you see any that you think are interesting, let me know. Imagine we put banks on chain. You deposit $1 million, immediately it all disappears, and you see 10,000. You cannot withdraw or more until they replace it. That's a bank. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's another crazy thing. I put it on X earlier today. Watching the Bank of Japan stuff unfold, people are freaking out. People are going to run to money. Risky assets are not fun to be in during concern. Right? That's why markets are selling off. But what we're watching happen is just the continuous decay of fiat currency. Bitcoin is not being utilized in the way it will be in the future. Bitcoin is digital gold, but it's not being treated like digital gold. Gold is doing well right now during fear and concern. Bitcoin's not. Why? Because it's being treated like a risky asset. That will change. But here's the big question. And you got to think a little bit further out than just what does this look like by this weekend? When you think about it, and some of you might say, Tim, I honestly trust my dollar more. Touche. You do you. But when you think about the next 10 to 15 years, do you trust the US dollar, the Japanese yen, or any other fiat currency to maintain its value, or at least stay at some sort of decent value? Or do you more trust Bitcoin? Myself, I more trust Bitcoin. You got to make the decision for yourself. Why am I able to ride these lows like I'm currently am down? Bitcoin's down 30-something% from its all-time high. That's a pretty good chunk of money right there that I'm down in my portfolio. Why does it not affect me necessarily? Because when I think about the future, first of all, I'm still in profit long-term for my investments because I've been investing for a long time. Time in the market's better than timing the markets. But I think about myself, I'm like, man, if I take profit right now, down 30-something%, and then it shoots up to the upside, I'm in big trouble. Not big trouble, but that would suck. And by the way, I've done that before. I have sold bottoms before thinking I could wait for a little bit longer, and then it ends up redirecting and go back to the upside. If I hold on and things go lower, I'll just wait and accumulate more fiat dead currency and buy the dips, lowering my average entry. To me, the risk of selling outweighs the risk of holding Bitcoin. The risk of small Bitcoin declines is nowhere close to the long-term risk of keeping my net worth and value in a US dollar that is being obliterated day in and day out. I was just reminiscing with my wife over the Thanksgiving weekend. How long ago? Okay, so I've been married now since 2019. So I'm married for 6 years to my wife. When we were first married in 2019, I remember getting a job where I was making $17 an hour. I was so elated. I was so happy. I was like, man, $17 an hour. I'm going to make this much per year. Man, we can pay all our bills. I feel like I have security. Hey, yeah, get the full meal. We go to Wendy's, get the meal. You don't have to get just a sandwich. Get the meal. We got money now. $17 an hour still wasn't a whole lot of money back in 2019, but $17 an hour now feels like absolutely nothing. And I remember back then, yes, I was a simpler time, simpler person, didn't spend a lot of money on a lot of things, but I remember thinking I could go years with an income, having a job of making $17 per hour. And today, that's just not doable whatsoever. Why? Because in just the last 6 years, in the short 6 years that I have been married, the dollar in those 6 years alone has been obliterated. And if we think that obliteration is going to slow down over the next 6 years, we're kidding ourselves. The reality is, if you think Bitcoin's been in a bull market in 2025, you're kidding yourself. It hasn't been in a bull market. Everyone's acting like Bitcoin's doing this, the stock market's doing this, that gold's doing this. The reality is, 2025, markets more did this. Maybe a slight increase. The dollar's doing this. That's what's making everything go up. Just so happens that the dollar's doing this, altcoins are doing this, so altcoins not doing well, But my overall point here is, What do you trust more when you think about the next couple years of your life? Do you trust banks? Do you trust the dollar? Do you trust government-issued currency? Or do you more trust decentralized currency, Bitcoin, and some other altcoins? Not every altcoin under the sun is great, but there's a lot of altcoins out there that have a very bright future. Which one do you trust more? That's my question. All right.
Saw an important question, Tim.
Yeah.
There in the chat. Does Powell speak later today? He does.
He does.
I believe he speaks at 9 p.m. Right, that's nighttime. It's uncharacteristically late, but that's 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that tells me he's probably speaking somewhere in Pacific time zone, maybe Central time zone. What's important, though, Tim, and I want to get your perspective on this, is I don't think he's going to say much of consequence. He's speaking at a university type of an academic setting. So I'm not sitting here thinking it's going to be very important.
My prediction is it's going to be another speech about the history of the Federal Reserve and what they did back in the 80s and versus what they think about it long term. There's a rumor out there that he's going to use this time to issue his statement of retiring. And I think that was the same rumor the last time one of these things happened. Don't believe it. Again, tonight, I'm hearing this. I actually don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that tonight at 11:59, so it's technically like the minute before the second, we officially move out of QT. Preface this, I think it's bullish long term. I think it will be a good thing long term. Ben Cowan is right. He got one thing wrong today. Ben Cowan, amazing man, gets things wrong from time to time. He's not wrong about this. If you think that the minute they turn off QT, that means markets go crazy to the upside. No, that's not how it works. It's a process. Think of it more like if a train is running down a railroad really fast, ending QT is applying the brakes. The train doesn't stop on a dime. It starts to slow down. So the reality is, if we're expecting new all-time highs by next week because QT ends, that's not the case. I still want the train to slow down. I still want the train to stop. That's still a good thing. But I'm just not at a place where I'm saying, QT's over, guys. We're to the moon. No, that's not how that works. A rate cut will help, right? That's what we didn't get last time. We talked about it on the show today. Go back and watch it. Back in 2019, crypto not bottomed out. We ended QT. That's not quite it. We need to get rate cuts plus QT, and we need to start getting some confidence back in the markets. And I think we're in a good spot there. Like, I think everything is pointing towards good news coming out from China and Trump in terms of tariffs. That would be different than 2019. I think there's some good news coming around the bend when it comes to regulatory clarity in the world of crypto. Like, there's so many things we're on the cusp. We're on the doorstep of fantastic news that should unlock a lot of money. That's not today. That's not even guaranteed later this week. I myself will not be surprised at all if Bitcoin makes a run up to 103, everyone gets bullish again, and then we correct and go down to 74,000, right? That to me is my most likely situation right now. So I'm preparing for it. I'm defensive. I'm ready. We're not high enough for me to take any profits right now or to sell on any of my crypto, but I will look for an opportunity under some false bullishness amongst a crazy, chaotic market. And you're sitting here saying, Tim, no, like we get to 103, we have to be bullish. Just want to show you this one more time, guys. Let's go look at my chart real quick here, Smay. We have big rallies that happen all the time during situations like this. Go back to early this year, February, massive crash, right? Big rally, not over. Big rally, not over. Go back to the summer of 2024. Again, this is not a bear market. This is a pullback. Crash, rally, crash, rally, crash, rally, crash, rally, crash. When you really look at it, we haven't, this entire bearish trend, had a good relief bounce yet. You can make a little bit of a case of that one, but you really haven't had a season. Like, nobody was like, oh, here we go. Top's not in, bull market's back on. Nobody was saying that this weekend as Bitcoin was above 90K. There was still a lot of concern. We're going to get in a situation here with this rebound. You're going to see X turn. You're going to see people get very bullish, despite the fact that we're still pretty low compared to the all-time high. And that's where I think you get a turnaround. You get that move back down to 74. Hey, do we go a little below to go towards 60? I think it's doable. It's possible. What I just don't see happening, and I could be wrong, I don't see the 30K that some people are calling for. To me, I think I called it in 2023. I said I think the next bear market is going to be around 50, maybe 60%. We're not going to see another 78, 75% correction. 50% would be here on 60-ish K, 63. 60%, we're looking down here towards 50K almost. 49, 50K. Lows we had back in the summer. That to me is, I think, about the worst it's going to get. After that, I think the possibility of buying Bitcoin down 50, 60% is just too great. Big whales and institutions jump in. We have a big rally. I'm not guaranteeing we get that low. Let's continue to monitor the charts as they come out. But I'm just laying out the possibilities and probabilities as I see them. You have to kind of decide for yourself, what do you think the most likely situation is? If you want to follow me, smash like right now. Hit subscribe for free every day here on YouTube. We are here giving free information, free thoughts and opinions on what we see in the markets. If you want to learn how to analyze the charts, learn how to do this stuff, again, go check out that VIP training group with the Black Friday sale today and the rest of this week. Then that's going away. But there we go. All right. It's 4:01. We're going to go ahead and wrap up today's show. Tomorrow, I'll be back at 3 p.m. with a shorter show. It'll be a nice 20, 25-minute show. Show you the chart, show you the news, get in, get out. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you smash that like button. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.